euros in a silver limo. I swap it for time and I take it for me. Mo jittery base in 2 days, I'm on 3 on gone. Palomino Patron, cappuccino Tutron. Alameda song, stack it up, stack it up.
What is up? Welcome to the pit. We had a bit of a last minute shakeup. Our hostmaster slash toastmaster, Circa slash Satoshi, had a last minute emergency. I think someone left the toast oven on for too long or something. So yeah, I'll be stepping in temporarily. Very excited. With me, as always, we have Jedi. Stoked to have you here, Jedi. And then our special guest, Taiki Maeda. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me on. I've been watching this, or I've been subscribed for like a few years now, so honored to be on here.
Yeah, it's awesome. Vice versa. I mean, we've been following you for probably over 2 years and sharing your content in the pit, which is our Discord channel or our Discord sub channel of Hxro Labs. So yeah, pretty much everyone in the pit is very familiar with who you are. Hopefully, we'll be able to do them justice with a good interview here. Yeah, kind of wanted to kick things off with like your general overview of the market. Obviously there's a lot going on with this whole death of DeFi, balancer situation. Binance isn't helping. Obviously there's a lot of stuff going on with Curve. Kind of wanted to get your brief take on what your approach to all this news has been, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I guess like my first reaction, like whenever Curve and Balancer, I mean, I guess the Balancer stuff like wasn't even that big of a deal because I think only 2% of the TVL was affected, but I think it kind of adds to this negative sentiment towards DeFi that, it's too risky, it's not worth it. And I do agree. There was like this tweet by Altcoin Psycho where he said, I think it's safe to say that DeFi is a failed experiment and it's not worth having significant capital trying to earn yield. I agree with like the second half of that statement. I think the yields have dried up enough where, like, is it really worth like risking your stables and ETH and BTC to earn like 7%, 8%? I don't really think so. I think the only yield farming that I get excited about is like airdrop farming, where I get to farm imaginary APR, like imaginary airdrop points. So like I have some capital in Eigenlayer and like ambient finance, like the DEX. But other than that, it's like just sticking to the like true and tested like Aave and like some farming on GMX and stuff. But that's kind of how I approach DeFi, at least in the last couple of months and like most of this year. And we just like I feel like every single week or every other week we just see news around like this morning. I think FTX is going to liquidate like multi-billion dollars of like altcoins and like Bitcoin and Ether. It's like,
yeah, I saw that.
When is the selling going to stop, right? Like when is the selling going to stop? And I think DeFi just has this problem of like lack of money coming into the space, and then there's like just so many tokens being unlocked and like being sold in the open market. So sentiment definitely bad, but I do think that there's like light at the end of the tunnel. So just I think in this market you have to find ways to like remain optimistic and like not just write things off. I think that's kind of like where my head's at, right? Just I'm like a perpetual optimist, so just believe, I guess, believe in the tech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the reason for the dark clouds is that people say that like why would you have money in DeFi when you can like earn 5% buying treasuries and stuff. And I think the negativity stems from the fact that like DeFi applications just they're like just not good enough, right? If DeFi applications were good, then people would like ape money and like earn yield and like do speculative things. But the truth of the matter is that DeFi can't really survive like a 5% rate environment. So if you view that, this is like my personal take. People disagree, but like I think the core problem of DeFi is that it can't survive like high interest rate environments. So I think the only solution behind that is to bring high interest rates on chain, right? So like having real world assets, tokenized treasuries, bring them on
Yeah,
chain.
Maker.
So even if, what was that?
Maker.
Yeah. So like even if rates go to 6%, then we have tokenized treasuries that's paying 6%. If rates go down, then that makes the entire risk asset class or like higher a crypto asset class maybe like more attractive from like a I don't know, like capital gains perspective. So I think just bringing off-chain yields on chain helps create or helps make DeFi anti-fragile in the sense that it can survive both high and low interest rate environments. Because right now, like the problem is like high interest rates. Like that's that's the core of the issue. So just have to work around that. And I see the developments in this area in this sector. So I think like just focusing my attention here or in that sector has made me more optimistic. Because you look at Balancer getting exploited, or like Curve exploited. It's like it's really easy to become disillusioned and say that it's not going to work. And maybe maybe it doesn't work, but you simply do not know. But I think I operate under the assumption that I think DeFi is one of the best when it comes to like product market fit for like blockchain tech. And I think I still believe that. You have to see, like I said, like forest. Sorry, light at the end of the tunnel. That's
Totally.
that's
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Real world assets is a huge narrative already, and it's coming for the next bull cycle. Is there any other protocols you're looking at that have similar value props to like a Maker, for example?
Yeah. And I mean, there's a bunch. There's like FXS, like Frax. There's Ondo Finance. There's like a new, there's going to be like a new token, like probably next month for like T protocol, which is like another real world asset protocol. I mean, like the one thing I like about real world assets is that, like, if you look at DeFi, like the yields get diluted, right? It's like if yields are good, then people ape in and then the APR goes down. But at least for like tokenized treasuries, like the yield remains fixed at, whatever like the market rate is, or like whatever the Fed funds rate is, and like whatever like the market prices it at. And I'm also looking into like real estate. I think tokenizing real estate could be right, because if you think about like big narratives and like potential like next bubbles, it's like like what has the ability to like become huge. And I think with crypto, like the narratives of like the past cycle, like it's not going to work, right? Like there's no way like anyone's going to ape into like an ohm fork or something. Like people learn from their past mistakes and look forward.
There've been a lot of them recreated, and none of them have done well.
Yeah, and like that's like why like Friend.Tech I think is interesting, because it gives people a sense that they're early into something. Hey, like like I use the application, I buy shares, or I buy keys of people I like, and I'm betting on them growing, and then maybe I get some airdrops. So I think crypto people or crypto participants like have lacked Hopium. So anything that injects Hopium, I think, is just generally good. So whenever I see like a new experiment like Friend.Tech, I'm like, okay, like what can I personally do with it? Like honestly, like I have no idea how to provide value for my key holders. Because like what the hell am I gonna do, right? But I think the idea around like tokenizing people, being able to speculate, and you see like OnlyFans people, like athletes on board, and I think that's a positive development, because you do like crypto needs like mass consumer apps to bring like more people and like to see the value prop of like what we like use all day. So
Yeah, I mean, Friend.Tech has to be one of the best consumer facing in terms of UX crypto applications we've ever seen, right? I mean, what else has come out that's been similar? I don't know, Jetta, if you remember anything else, but for sure. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think we've seen other social networks that have tried to do something similar, and just it just hasn't caught on, or the UX was terrible. Yeah, this feels a little bit like this time it's different.
Yeah. By the way, like Jedi, I have trouble hearing you, so like I don't know if it's the audio settings, but maybe like get the mic closer to your. Yeah. Yeah, a little better. Like I have like bad hearing, so like I just want to make sure I get to hear what you're saying.
I wanted to just ask you in terms of the kind of like the stress test that we've experienced with DeFi, particularly over the last 12 months. Do you think that like DeFi could be like almost planned better, or is it just a result of like low expectation? I mean, where do you think we've gone wrong in terms of DeFi's failure on the stress test side of things?
I don't know. I feel like like most like major DeFi apps, like they function pretty well. Like the DeFi 1.0 dinosaurs. And I do notice this trend where like I think recently there's like this anti-VC sentiment where like if we're gonna pump anything, let's pump tokens with like no VCs, and like let's like not buy anything with like vesting. And I guess like the value of like DeFi is that, or it's like with some of these DeFi 1.0 tokens, like most of the supply is already vested. So for like the average person, there's like a better chance of like actually like making money from it. And I think that's also the problem with DeFi. It's like the core tech and the app works, but people kind of like correlate like how good something is with like the token price. Like Aave is amazing, but Aave price is down only. So it's like, okay, like DeFi sucks. But I think the apps themselves like are pretty powerful. And I think, the ability to like borrow, lend, and like buy things like permissionlessly, um, like, I think that like when I first used Aave, like I was like mind blown. I was like, oh my God, like this shit's insane. And like, sorry, what was the other part of the question?
You answered the question. You answered both of them. So
Oh, okay.
So I do agree with you. I think that I personally believe that the real value proposition at the end of the day is, does this shit work? When liquidations happen and people don't pay their loans, they get liquidated. There's no like bank manager to account for. There's no schmoozing. There's no dinners. It's kind of like, this is what you committed to. Your health score is not great. Cheers. Have a nice day. And I think that's what the essence of this is all about. You're 100% correct. People rely on this notion of price. We like it. We love it. It's part of what we've grown to enjoy about the space. But like you said, if I want to go and borrow, I can go and borrow. And there's no umming and ahhing around that. And I think for me, that's a huge success for DeFi. And I'm just going to hold on to that aspect of it, irrespective of, FTX doing this and this guy doing that. And I think for me, the essence of what DeFi has done is it's succeeded, and it can only improve from here on out. And whether we go back to kind of like version 1, then so be it. And let's use version 1 and kind of progress the space. I'm all for that. It doesn't have to be like fancy cars and outfits, as long as it works, it works.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess like during the bull market, like there's so many things that pop up and it's like super exciting. But I guess like the idea of DeFi is to like recreate like TradFi rails like on the blockchain, like onto the blockchain. And if you think about like fintech applications, I'm based in the US, so like I use all these fintech apps, right? And at the end of the day, like the dollar has value, so I use these like brokerage accounts and like banks because they provide value as like a dollar holder. And DeFi, right? Like DeFi is a crypto native, so it's trying to create value on top of Bitcoin and Ether, which is like crypto native money. So of course, like if the value of Bitcoin and Ether are going down, then there's like less use for DeFi because like earning yield on BTC. Well, if it's going down, it's like, what the hell? If I'm levering my Bitcoin, well, if Bitcoin's going down, it's like, what the hell? Like I'm getting wrecked. So it kind of relies on like Bitcoin and Ether, like as crypto monies to appreciate in value. And then you kind of create, and then like that's gonna, it's very cyclical, right? Everything in crypto is like super cyclical. And they kind of all rely on Bitcoin and Ether, like just slowly appreciating like over time. Because like in this environment, it's like super choppy. Every month, like tokens are being dumped by like FTX liquidators and like Robinhood, and it's a pretty hard environment for like crypto natives. But if you do think that Bitcoin and Ether are gonna recover at some point, then I don't really see how you can be bearish DeFi. Like it's gonna create more utility around like those types of assets. And then it's going to like lead to more speculation, more fees, more value. Yeah.
Yeah. Taiki, do you have any thoughts on the whole kind of like Binance situation, that like black cloud that seems to be overhanging us right now?
Oh, like BNB going down and like how
Yeah.
how liquid are they
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's the thing is like I think people like to bet on Binance's downfall because I don't know, like people don't like crypto. But I kind of like view BNB and like the Binance asset or sorry, Binance centralized exchange like separately. I think BNB as a token is gonna like just bleed over time just because there's like no like demand for the token. But I think Binance is the number one like centralized exchange, and it's still like making money. Of course, I'm sure their numbers are down and they've had to lay people off. But I don't really. I mean, maybe I'm like ignorant of like the like systemic risks, right? But like I don't really think Binance poses like that big of a threat to like DeFi or crypto. Of course, like we see like DOJ headlines, and like, that's not great. And maybe it kind of kills sentiment for like the entire space as a whole. But I don't know, like I don't really see Binance collapsing like anytime soon. It's still like
There's like
risk is low.
supposedly some on-chain liquidation price of a ton of BNB or something if BNB reaches a certain price. Jedi, do you remember any more details on that?
I think it was at $2.20 or something like that, and we've already passed it. So I don't know if CZ went and sold one of his mansions to pay off some of
Yeah,
that loan, if it is in fact true. But I don't know.
same thing as the
It's
curve situation.
yeah. I
Yeah, I
mean, we
mean,
actually It's I don't know.
yeah, because that position exists because like I think the BSC bridge was hacked and someone took a bunch of BNB, and that hacker used BNB as collateral and borrowed a bunch of stables and bridged out, and then try to cash out that way. And like Binance, like the Binance team, like took over that position, so they're forced to liquidate it over time. So it's not going to cause like liquidations, but I guess it's going to force Binance to like pay millions of dollars to slowly buy back its own token, which I guess like is not great for the business itself, but it's not really gonna like lead to BNB going to like $50 overnight. I mean,
Sure.
it might get there in like 5 years. I have no idea, but it's more of like those engagement farming like posts of like, oh my god, like it's gonna get liquidated and we're all gonna die.
Yeah. Yep. All the doomers come out of the woodwork at this phase of the bear market.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on LSDfi? I know Jedi is super bullish on LSDfi. I'm pretty bullish on several projects as well. I'm not sure if you're exposed, but
Yeah, I mean, LSDs like went crazy at the beginning of the year with like Lido and like the Chapella upgrade. But obviously, like most coins have like retraced like like most of the pump. I mean, it's a good narrative, right? I mean, you stake ETH, your like, Lido receives 10% of the fees. At some point, maybe that goes to token holders. But
I
like I
mean,
said,
ETH's been pretty boring since as well, so it's kind of just beta ETH, I would think.
yeah, and I think in this market with like the lack of capital inflows, like it's really hard to buy anything like without like any sorts of inflows. You can argue Bitcoin and Ether have like structural inflows because people view it as crypto monies, but like with all these altcoins, it's really hard, right? Because VCs still vest their Lido and like they dump it, or like like seed investors, and until like these protocols like use their revenues to like buy back its own token or share it to like stakers, it's just like really hard to like hold anything. Of course, you can hold it as like a long-term investment. Like I'm not sure like what assets like you own, like Lido or like some like other small cap, micro cap. There's also like this trend like with like eigenlayer, like restaking. There's like Stater has like the liquid restaking ETH, which I think is kind of interesting. But I think generally like whenever narratives play out, the thing with narratives is that like people buy because it's a narrative, right? It's like there's like no fundamental demand for these tokens outside of like people like promoting it. So narratives come and go, but at the end of the day, like all these tokens and applications, they have to create like some fundamental value, and they have to like work like stocks or like some like security, right? Until that happens, it's like really hard to like buy into individual narratives, I think.
I found the whole trading bot thing and the narrative around that to be really interesting. You know, what we've experienced over the last 2 to 3 months. Oh, the irony, I'm going to invest in inverted commas in something that's actually going to outcompete me in the next trade. So why not? You know, let me throw my money at this thing that more than likely is going to kick my ass in the next bull market. And look at what happened. I mean, UNIBOT from nowhere. I mean, it was a product that was around for a long time. I mean, I think that was a really cool narrative, you know, because normally the narratives are so like ridiculous. You know, we had that meme coin period where Pepe went to like a billy, you know, like literally overnight. And it's like for what? Well, because people just were bored. Whereas I think the whole bot thing was pretty damn cool. And it was really nice to see that there was some kind of a use case around it, even if it was to ultimately wreck the people that were buying into it, you know, in the next bull. Just thoughts around that. I mean, did you participate firstly? And like, what do you think about that narrative going forward?
Yeah, so I missed out on the UNIBOT pump. I saw it early, and then I was like, okay, like
let's not talk about that.
We all did, man. It's okay.
It's hard for me to buy into something if I don't use it. Like I generally only buy things that I use, have in the past, or like, you know, will use. But I do know people that use UNIBOT.
Do you not, I guess, trade enough low caps to make a tool like that worthwhile, I guess? Or
yeah, I mean, there's like, I'm not gonna, you know, trade like Harry Potter or Obama Sonic 10, you know.
I can't believe you said that in one breath.
Yeah, but I do know people that use it, and it's not to like shitcoin. It's more like they buy an altcoin and like they don't want to have, like, if they're traveling, right? Like they just transfer their token into the UNIBOT wallet, and then like they wake up one day, price is crashing, and then like they don't want to deal with it. Like they're like, fuck it, like I pay 1% fee to sell. So it's kind of like, I guess it's like account abstraction where you're kind of like obfuscating, or people don't want to deal with like MetaMask and like, you know, going to Uniswap, so they're willing to pay a fee to like, you know, outsource that. But like, you know, and I still feel like, I mean, that's also like Friend.Tech, right? It's like you don't have to download MetaMask. You like just bridge bridge ETH to the Friend.Tech app, and then, you know, it's funded and you can like buy, sell shares or keys. So I think from that perspective, I think it's interesting. And everything that's like that's captured the imagination of people in the past couple of months is around just like obfuscating like the bad crypto UX and the UI. So like maybe that's like a narrative on its own, and like that's like a trend maybe. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the end game for UNIBOT is to try to create like a MetaMask competitor where you can easily like set limit orders and you know, do all these things from a mobile app where it's, you know, not a horrible experience like MetaMask and using Uniswap.
Yeah, it's hard though. Like I'm not sure. Like I feel like most people that use UNIBOT is like using it to like trade like meme coins. I mean, I have no idea. Like I don't have like the data in front of me. For
sure.
Yeah, so it's kind of depend. So it's kind of like meme coin beta, where it's like if you don't want to buy meme coins, it's at least this thing has like revenue share. So it's like if you're like a rational person, it's like, okay, like fucking Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic 10, you know, it's pumping. I don't want to buy that shit. I'll like just buy UNIBOT instead. So like maybe like that's one of the reasons. And they have like super high fees, right? Like the buy and sell tax. So maybe that creates like more diamond handers. And at some point, if the price goes high enough, then like the buy and sell tax fees are like so high that it's just like a flywheel on its own. If price goes down, then like it's probably like not recoverable. But as long as prices maintaining like high prices, I think it's like a pretty interesting like flywheel.
Yeah, so UNIBOT is essentially like an ETF for the shitcoin space, which isn't a good way to think about it, I think.
Yeah. Which you can, I mean, yeah, you can definitely make a case for it, right? It's like if you want to bet on degens buying meme coins and like using like on-chain tooling, like Telegram bots, and yeah, like maybe it's worth allocating there. Who knows?
Yep. Yeah, something else I wanted to bring up, and it kind of goes into the you know, on-chain degenning. It's really only been happening on ETH. This, you know, Friend.Tech app has kind of been the first really cool use case we've seen for an L2. What are your thoughts on, why is so much activity still happening on ETH? People are paying ridiculous gas fees. Nothing has really happened on, Arbitrum in many months. It seems like all of that DeFi activity was just, basically there for airdrop farming. And after the airdrop, everyone pretty much left, and there just hasn't been as much activity. Personally, I would much rather use Arbitrum and Optimism, etc. But yeah, it's really strange to me that we haven't seen haven't really seen the infrastructure on these L2s.
Yeah, I mean, ETH is where all the money is. So if you're gonna, I mean, yeah, like it's all about liquidity, right? It's like there's no new people entering the space, like even Friend.Tech, like okay, like oh my god, like OnlyFans people are coming in, but that's like what, a few dozen people. It's like it doesn't really move the needle. And people are gonna just go where they can make money, and that's on mainnet. So like even these L2s, like Arbitrum was like super hot, during before the airdrop, and and I think it kind of died down like after the airdrop. And I feel like for Arbitrum to recover, like it needs to do something with their token, like the Arbitrum treasury, or like the DAO. They have so many tokens, like they have to disperse that, right? I think they should give it to like GMX, because like that's their flagship product, and then maybe there can be like more projects that build on top. But until that happens, like I don't really see people like going too crazy on Arbitrum. Even like Optimism, there's like, I mean, yeah, there's WorldCoin and like other stuff happening there, but it's not good enough, right? Like the DeFi apps are just not good enough.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on L2s for next 12 plus months?
I really like OP. I used to be more bullish ARB over OP, but I think I like OP more. The problem with these L2 tokens is like no one knows how to value it. So maybe you can create maybe there will be like a bubble around that, but there's gonna be like a new L2 launching every single like month at this rate. So it's also kind of like diluting like the potential bid for these L2 tokens. Even like the EIP
Sure.
for narrative is like just a narrative, right? It's like no one's like, there's like no true value quote outside of like people talking about it. I mean, yeah, I think Friend.Tech is a good first step. Like it's cheap, like people use it, like it's cool. It's only been around for a few weeks, but I mean, there's potential there. I feel like there's been like an overinvestment in like the infrastructure layer and like not enough in like the app layer. So
yep.
Until that changes, it's hard to expect anything to like do really well.
Thoughts on Base? Do you think it'll get traction?
I think so. I mean, I'm not sure, like I think Friend.Tech is like 100,000 wallets. Like I'm not sure if that's actually like users, but
how many of those are bots?
Yeah, so like I think that's pretty cool. Like I don't know. Like I feel like until Bitcoin and Ether like start like doing well, it's hard to expect any L2 to gain traction. There's been derivatives around like Friend.Tech. I saw like basebook.xyz. I didn't sign up, but like I saw that. I think there's like this new project called Enemy Tech. It's like Friend.Tech, but like for enemies. I think it's like enemy.tech or something. Like, I was like, okay, like that's, wow. I don't know. Like, and there's like people trying to build like lending and like perps on top. I mean, I guess it's a way to potentially be early into like this narrative, but
yeah, I think Zoo was trying to create pairs for the top friend shares and allow people to like trade that on his exchange or something.
Oh yeah, so
I don't know if you saw that.
Like for the open exchange, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I could short BitBoy, I'd be all in. In fact, I'd take my entire net worth.
I know, that'd be so fun.
No, dude, it'd be epic.
Yep.
Yeah. The problem with like shorting people is like you can like if if Kobe's like 50 either at one point and then people short it, then there's like incentives for people to like put out a hit piece on Kobe. So like that's, I mean, that's more like a dystopian like thought that might like
Yeah.
risk later on.
Totally.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like, yeah, I don't know. Like putting a value in people, it's kind of weird. But I guess, I mean, if the idea is like anything that can be tokenized is going to be tokenized, and like maybe that like, actually ends up being the case.
I mean, just hearing
Yeah, I'm
you
not
speak,
sure.
just hearing you speak the way you speak, it's like it's almost like a guarantee that it's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's like the most ludicrous left field kind of approach to the whole thing, and it's going to happen. You know, it's almost like a matter of time. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, so I've head out in like 15 minutes, but like I wanted to like ask you guys a question around like, because for me, like I do content, right? Like I have a YouTube channel and like, you know, I do DeFi stuff. And obviously like, you know, like for me, like my YouTube metrics are like just down only. It's like pretty discouraging sometimes. Like how do you guys deal with like burnout? Like how, like what makes you guys like still wake up in the morning, like, you know, like write for Blockmates and like do these like Hxro Labs like podcasts, like how are you guys doing from like a content perspective? And I don't know, like how do you remain positive on that front?
Can I answer first?
Yeah, Jedi, you should take that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a really good question, because there's so many different ways of looking at this whole thing. It's kind of like that scene in the bus, right, where you got on the right hand side the guy's looking at the cliff and it's all depressing, and then on the other side is looking out the window. And I think with the content side of things, it's very easy to get caught in that whole, you know, kind of like trap of the negative. I find that we're very fortunate in that we get insight to a lot of protocols that are coming on stream or looking to raise, or, you know, have ideas and want feedback on what their ideas are. And to be brutally honest with you, we just keep getting busier and busier. Like we have almost like an endless supply of content that we could put out there. There isn't actually enough hours in the day to actually keep up with like really cool protocols with really good ideas that deserve coverage in terms of what it is that they're doing. So I don't really see the space a lot of the time. If I didn't look at charts and I wasn't aware of what was going on in the market, I would not be aware of the fact that we were in the middle of a bear market right now. Because on the build side of things, it is full throttle and it is interesting, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the space. Sure, there's a lot of copy and paste, there's a lot of forks that are happening, but then there's a lot of really good innovation, layer 2s on Bitcoin, you know, like super interesting, you know, dynamics around perps, lending and borrowing. I mean, there's just so many great protocols. And there was a question that I actually wanted to ask you in terms of like, you know, ideal market situation, ideal market conditions. Like, what have you got your eyes on at the moment where you see tremendous potential for, you know, a turn in the market and for, you know, liquidity coming back into the system? Like, who would you essentially bet your money on? You know, like
real quick
protocols.
before he answers that, Hero
Yeah.
Stats have been down only until the last few weeks, and they've recently started to turn, I think, just because of the stacked lineup we've had, including yourself, obviously. And I think that's one of the advantages of that's one of the advantages of the bear market is it's easier to do business development because there's less noise, and you can kind of focus on relationships that are going to really propel the numbers in months to come.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I think, you know what, Taiki, I think the whole notion of like, we've got to maintain the numbers and go up only, and like you obviously have been like in a situation where you've obviously experienced like really good feedback on the stuff that you've done. You probably still do, but you're not seeing that gradual increase. my take on that is just carry on. You know what I mean? Obviously you will, but it's like, this is why we're in the space that we're in right now in terms of like it being quiet, is that we actually have an opportunity for just the three of us to sit and actually have a chat about whether it's negative, positive, neutral. We would probably not have had this opportunity in a bull market. And I think this scenario is playing out in every other scenario. Builders are actually doing proper shit and building. Sure, it's harder. Sure, it's not easy to keep your runway going. I mean, a lot of guys are being challenged at the moment. But I think you make it through this, and then when the mania does return, and yes, it will, anyone who thinks that it doesn't clearly doesn't know human nature, will be ready for it. And I think that for me is also like, just to come back to your question, it's like, I'm so looking forward to that because I know it's going to come, and I'll be patient and I'll wait for it to come, and I'll prepare for it and I'll practice up until then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the reason I asked wasn't because like I'm like feeling discouraged and like I'm gonna retire or something. It's more like I've been like similar to like, you know, you guys like reaching out to me and me hopping on. Like I've also reached out to like on Tuesday I went to like a Blockworks event.
Yeah.
Where like
Cool.
And like I drank beers with like the Blockworks founder, and he was like, yeah, like it's hard, but like, you know, crypto cyclical. We have to believe, and like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, we just have to believe, right? Like we just have to believe that crypto's not dead. And I guess like I don't know, like anyone that's like left, like maybe they're like more engaged, and then, you know, they'll appreciate you like when things do get better. And like for me, content wise, it's like I'm no longer like, you know, like like does it really, like if you think about like creating value for your audience, it's like, does it really create value if I'm like talking about like meme coin, like this meme coin's pumping this week, like, you know, like this week, like, and like that's pumping. It's like, it's really hard to track. So I think it's, for me, I'm like trying to focus more on like longer term ideas, like longer term narratives, and kind of like just, you know, think about, okay, like the state of DeFi is this, the state of the markets is this. For it to recover, then like ABC, XYZ needs to happen. So I guess like trying to deliver value in the sense of, you know, I like not treating like my audience as like, you know, retail, like that's only in the meme coins, of like, you know, trying to like, you know, treat them like actual human beings and like that actually cares about like value, because there's also like this notion that like for retail to come back, like meme coins need to pump or something. But like I mean, sure, like meme coins pumping will like bring some people back, but like I also think that's like a condescending way to like look at your audience, right? It's like, does your audience like only really care about like random shit coins? Like probably not, right? Like they want to invest in things that create value. So
yeah, do you want your audience buying the top of Harry Potter coin?
Yeah. So yeah.
How long have you been creating content revolved around crypto?
Like 3 years, I think. I think I started like sometime this year. Sorry, sometime, yeah, like August of 2020-ish is like when I started. Like I started like making Bitcoin content. Like if you go to my channel and you look at my first videos, like it's like I talked about like Michael Saylor and like Bitcoin, and then I expanded to Ether, and then like Q4 of 2020 was like insane when it comes, like Bitcoin was pumping, and then like DeFi coins pumped in like January. So ever since then, I'm like focused my content on DeFi. I'm like trying to specialize in the sector, and not trying to like, you know, go too far out. But yeah, 3 years content. 2021 was like crazy, right? Because we all know what happened. But yeah, since the top in 2022, it's been like, yeah, like people just leave, right? Like every time I upload a video, like I lose subscribers, right? Like people are like, ah, like fuck this guy, you know, like DeFi is a scam. I'm like, all right, but like I totally understand that sentiment, right? It's like what am I supposed to say, right? It's like, you know, like there's like hacks everywhere. So trying to focus more on, okay, like, yeah, like how does DeFi recover from now? It's like that's like where I have my focus on, and trying to get people to like understand, like, you know, fundamentally, like this is like really good. Fundamentally, like, these create positive sum games instead of like zero sum games. Yeah.
And I mean, now's the time to kind of like establish that that real estate in DeFi. No one's talking about it. No one wants to talk about it, and then you'll basically have that content. When search traffic comes back in 1 to 2 years, and so it's not a bad investment from like an organic ranking perspective. It's like there's less competition. You can kind of cover that niche, fill that gap. Not a lot of other YouTubers are covering that, so yeah, it's not a bad strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even view it as competition. Like, I think if you're doing well, I'm doing well. If I'm doing well, you're probably doing well, right? It's like, I don't think we're all competing for like, yeah. I mean, I guess like that's part of the problem too, right? It's like people become more toxic as price goes down because, like in terms of like tribalism, right? It's like every dollar that goes into like buying Solana is like not going into like buying Ether, right? So it's like, oh, like, like that coin's bad, like this coin good, like, and like that creates like more anger and whatnot. But I think from a content, like, yeah, like I inherently like enjoy making content. Like, I think I'm trying to like educate people. It's like, yes, like everything looks like a scam and like it's not looking so great, but here's like this sliver of hope. That's kind of where, I think people like watch my videos because like I do tend to be like more optimistic, and I do tend to like focus on like value creation. Of course, I'm like wrong all the time, and I get wrecked all the time, but like, just trying to stand for optimism in DeFi is like what I stand for, I guess. Sorry, I have to go. I have a call.
Last question before you go.
Sure.
What do you have your eye on for the future that you really like? 1 or 2 protocols that you think are going to do well in the next cycle?
It's hard to say, but like part of like my thesis, and this could be totally off, but I think for DeFi to recover, I think like we have to have like real world assets. And I do think that if you go to DeFi Llama, I think real world assets is like number 9 or something in terms of TVL. Yeah, it's like number 9. But I think RWAs are gonna like be top 3 like easily.
Agreed.
Like, right, like number 1 is liquid staking, number 2 is lending, number 3 DEXs, number 4 bridges. Like if you expect DeFi to like hit like a trillion TVL, like what do you think that's gonna be comprised of, right? It's probably gonna be like either going up in value, Bitcoin going up in value, and then the TVL numbers inflate. But also it's gonna be like like dollars entering the space. But like how do dollars enter the space? It's gonna be like stable coins and like stablecoin yield products. And yeah, so I think anything that touches like RWAs that do it in like a scalable manner is important. I'm like positive on like Maker and Frax, just because like those are like the only 2 that exist right now, that that I can see like grow. But I'm sure maybe sometime like next year there's gonna be like new protocols. So my entire framework right now revolves around like tokenizing like real world assets, and then think about, okay, like out of all these projects, like which one can I see grow in like the coming months and years, and then I'll try to like allocate accordingly. And then if we enter like a full-blown like DeFi mania, then yeah, like maybe I'll go back to like degen Taiki. But like right now I'm like pretty conservative Taiki. I mean, I guess I'm degen in the sense that like I have so much money in crypto, but it's not like, it's like not going into like micro caps, it's like, okay, like I'll
Smart.
I have ETH, I have like Maker, I have FXS. Hope it goes up.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
It's good to have you on,
Cool.
Taiki. It's awesome to meet you, sir. Thank you so much for making
Yeah, thanks
the
so
time.
much.
Yeah,
Likewise.
dude.
Thanks for having me. Okay, yeah.
Love the
Gotta go.
optimism in the face of the worst DeFi bear that we've seen. So yeah, I think it's brought the fresh air.
Yeah, it's cool. And yeah, let's go out there and make it happen. It's good to have you
All
on.
right, thanks
sir.
guys. Have a good one.
Yep. Take it easy.
I'm up to nigga, this best up to Chico. Got me frozen in silver.